Okay, hello everybody. This month's Fearless Fridays, I'm here with Vicky Mason. Now, Vicky and I met and we were just doing some calculations 6 years ago, back when I was at the beginning, or more or less the beginning of my transition out of the 9 to 5, and we worked together at Virtu. Um, and we had a wonderful time, of course. At the time, Vicky was working full time there and I was consulting. But since then, as you can imagine, a lot of things have happened. Vicky and I have been connecting over the years, and I'm now excited because she's ready to share her transition with you all. So, welcome, Vicky, and why don't you tell us a bit more about already what you were doing before and what you're doing today?
Yeah, sure. Brilliant. Thanks, Banana. Yes, I've worked in corporate since I graduated back in 2000 now, so 20 years ago. And during my second maternity leave, I decided to take a step out of the 9 to 5 and do something different. So up until then, I've been working for various different corporates, generally in kind of marketing, membership, and customer experience type roles. Worked for people like Porsche Cars and McLaren and the Body Shop, and of course, to where we met. And yeah, now I have a much more varied week than I used to have. So I have my own customer experience clients, and I also do some training, and I also do some coaching. So yeah, very, very different, generally working from home. So I've skipped the long commutes that I used to do, and I have a lot more time for basically being around for my kids, but also for all the other things that I was kind of wanting to get up to with my life.
Well, let's explore that a little bit more. So, you mentioned your maternity leave, you mentioned not having the commute and exploring things. So, what was it that made you take that initial step out of the 9 to 5, and what made you finally go, you know what, yeah, I'm ready to work for myself?
Yeah, it was the maternity leave itself, to be honest. It was being able to be around for my kids, and being able to do the school pickups, and actually being able to yeah, just generally being around and be more flexible with them, because before, when I was in corporate, I was often very late home. I had an hour's commute each side of the day, and then I was often working late into the evening. So yeah, basically my whole life was eaten up by work. So suddenly taking a step outside that and realizing actually there's a lot that I'm missing out on, that was kind of the big thing for me. And it also, because when you're kind of away from work, you suddenly start doing the things that you maybe would like to be doing. So I started studying, I started reading a lot more, I started doing more coaching, and just generally kind of exploring the things. Equally, creativity, I really like music and design, drawing things, so all sorts of things that actually, my ideal week I would like to be doing, I started doing, and was sort of thinking to myself, why is this not part of my life normally? So that was the big thing for me, really.
Okay. And that sounds very, oh, okay, this is obvious, this is what I want to do, and it sounds nice and smooth and fantastic. But what were some of the challenges that cropped up, I guess, along the way as you actually navigated that transition?
Yeah, well, I've obviously chatted to you a couple of times about some of these in the past, and I think the big one for me is when you're in corporate and when you're getting a regular paycheck at the end of each month, I think you can take it for granted. And obviously, that when you step outside and do something different, that you're not going to be getting that anymore. But I think that transition was a big change for me, and certainly getting used to not earning as much money, particularly initially, was a really big shift. And fortunately, we had got quite a lot of savings, but yeah, it was quite a difficult transition, and I have taken on some kind of various different sort of roles and things in the meantime in order to try and to make things work. So I've now got to the point where everything that I'm doing is all my own business, which is great, but it's not been a sort of simple, sort of smooth sailing straight out of the gate, if you like. So
No, it
yeah, I
really
think,
is.
yeah, it's just been a case of kind of building momentum over the time.
And I think that's so great. So remind me, when was your second maternity leave? When did you sort of start this process?
So my daughter is about to turn 3. So 3 years
Okay.
ago she was born, and I resigned from my job. Gosh, I'm partway through that maternity leave. So yes, it's been a little while now since I've been in corporate. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's fantastic, and it's such a great example of the time it does take. And 3 years, to be honest, isn't that long. We're young, we're still going to work for many years to come, and I'm sure there'll be more twists and turns along the way. And I think, as
Yeah.
you said, taking those pragmatic decisions, you know what, I want at least a step in the right direction. And yes, you still
Yeah.
chose to do certain contracts and things that maybe weren't part of your ideal vision, but that then allowed you probably, I imagine, already more flexibility, less commutes because you're working from home part of the time, until you're now. I think 3 years is pretty reasonable, pretty fantastic to be able to go, you know what, actually, I'm completely deciding now, I'm managing my own business, and I'm choosing the projects that I want to work on.
Yeah, yeah, and I think one of the funniest things that I found in the process was the actual leap itself, because I'd spent a lot of time deciding whether to do it, whether to go back to work, and I was really in two minds. And then finally got to the point where I committed and I resigned from my job. And literally within 24 hours, I had my first contract. And it was from somebody who didn't know that I was on maternity leave, did not know that I was looking. But it was really, I don't know whether you call it synchronicity or coincidence or whatever, but it was just really, for me, it was almost just like a confirmation, right? I've done the right thing and things are starting to move in the right direction. But obviously it's been a real journey sort of since then. But certainly that was a really kind of good start for me, kind of showing me that I was going in the right direction with it.
And I think that always happens. I wrote an article, I think, the first 6 months after I'd left my job, and it was exactly that. There are opportunities you're not even aware of because your eyes aren't open to it. And as soon as you go to the world, whether you believe in sort of the universe messages or if you just think, you know what, it's just that I happen to be open to it and it's come along, as you said, that's really reassuring to know that suddenly, oh, actually, I can do this because, of course, you can. And having those, that sort of, reassurance and those messages being sent to you, I think, is really powerful. So I guess with those challenges in mind, with, of course, letting go of the salary and so on, what did help you? Was it just time? Was it those little things that happened, building your confidence that actually people are coming to me? What helped you? What was the support you got to help you through the transition?
I think the big thing was probably some of the courses I've done. So I've kind of connected with other people. I did a course run by NatWest right at the start, which connecting with people locally. So that was great. So I've got a kind of network in the local area here of people who are also running their own businesses and doing things a bit differently. Also, I did another course which was online. So I didn't meet local people, but met other people who were quite like-minded doing similar things. And actually, we still get on really well. And we went away together before Christmas, which was really nice. Amazing. Yeah, it's just nice to have those sorts of people that you can really connect with and, just talk to about sort of similar challenges that you might be facing. So those were big things. And then I also have had some coaching. Mindset coaching was a really big one for me. Getting out of corporate and kind of making that shift to kind of sort of marketing myself and sort of selling my services and things was quite a big change for me. So working with a coach was something that really, really supported me through that.
And with the courses, it's interesting because you didn't mention so much the content of them. You were saying more it was the network. Would you say that's true, that it was actually more the people you connected to rather than necessarily the subject matter?
I think it was probably a mixture of both, but I think probably the people were the most helpful because I think if you do any course, it's not tailored to you, and everybody's running different businesses and has different challenges. So I think with things like coaching, it can be tailored to where you're at and your current challenges. Whereas with the courses, I got some benefit out of them, but I think probably the connections I made were probably the biggest thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And were you really clear on what it was you wanted to do, or what helped you make those decisions?
No, and it's been a bit of a journey, to be honest. I mean, I know I really like variety, and as a result of actually sort of tried a few sort of different things, I know I enjoy doing the customer experience and the marketing, and for me it was about finding the right kinds of clients. So finding the types of people that I like to work with, feeling like they're actually making a difference through the work that they're doing, and that I'm also sort of helping them by making a difference through what I'm doing. So so that was sort of something that sort of developed over time, I guess, really. Equally with the training, I've always been really interested in training. I've always done bits and pieces of training throughout the years. So that's kind of just a natural development. And equally with the coaching, it's something that I qualified in back in 2011, actually, back when I had my son. So I've sort of used coaching within my business. I've had some individual clients. And it's just something that's kind of grown, I guess, from there. Mm-hmm.
It's connecting the dots when you look backwards, isn't it? Steve Jobs used to say that actually it makes so much sense now that you look back, but maybe it wasn't so obvious to you at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's almost sort of following the clues. So following the things that I'm passionate about, that I'm interested in, and trying different things and seeing kind of what works. So for me, it's been a kind of constant journey of just sort of trial and error, really, and finding my way and finding what seems to fit best. Yeah.
And that's very interesting. Someone else said, follow your curiosity, follow sort of, as you said, okay, this feels appealing to me right now. That brings a bit more of this. And actually, I'm excited to try that. And as you said, not to necessarily try to have all the answers right away. Again, it's taken you sort of 2-3 years to get to where you are now, exploring. And that's okay, because of course we can't go from one day to the next, doing one thing to the other. And also, as you said, it sounds like it wasn't that you were sort of ripping up your career entirely and going, oh, I hate all that stuff. Actually, you enjoyed the work. You're bringing your skills and experience with you, but you're able to you're empowered to choose clients and to construct, hopefully, your ideal week, as you were saying, in a different way than you were before in the corporate confines of the 9 to 5.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's kind of finding the bits that were working and kind of tweaking it so that effectively it's working better for me and my lifestyle, really. So yeah, no, that's been a big change, but
and really, what does that look like now then? What does your lifestyle look like? Is it your ideal week? Tell us about the best part of what you're doing today.
Yeah, so I think probably the best part for me is being able to work from home most of the time. So I've got two young kids, and actually being able to be there for them for the school pickups. For I was able to help out for half a term, an hour a week. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but my son's support teacher left, and I was able to help out in the classroom. I've been on a couple of school trips and things with him. It's just things that I wouldn't have been able to do before. So definitely being around for my kids, and school holidays makes such a big difference. Being able to move my hours, so I do more work in the lead up and after the holidays, but it means that I can free up more time to actually be with my kids. And last year we made a point of going away, just sort of cottages in the UK, but we went away for 3 separate weeks last year, and that's just something we would have never done in the past. So definitely that makes a really, really big difference to me. And I think probably being able to have the variety as well. So I'm not sort of, I'm currently sitting in my conservatory. I don't sort of sit in one place all week long, because actually I might be doing like last week I had a training day that I was running, so I then go somewhere else and do that for a day. I was running some coaching elsewhere. So it's the variety, I think, as well, as opposed to the same thing day in day out for 5 days in the week.
No, absolutely. Okay, amazing. And what advice might you give to someone, I guess in two scenarios, either or, the person who was maybe on their maternity leave and thinking, I don't want to go back, how can I do this? But also perhaps I spoke to you a year or two ago when actually maybe you're not quite where you want to be. If you want to speak to maybe those two scenarios, and if you have any words of wisdom to share with someone who might find themselves in those situations.
Yeah, I think probably from a maternity leave point of view, it's a great opportunity to connect with what you would like doing in your life. So I found that a really good time to kind of get back into touch with creativity and coaching, various different things, and kind of go, is there a way I can fit that in my life normally, or actually, do I need to do something different? So actually the maternity leave helped me to work out what was missing from my life, really, because I had a lot more time. And it also helped me to start thinking through, right, if I do something different, what might that look like? So it's the time really that's the great thing there. You've got the time to play with all sorts of different ideas and go, actually, am I better off going back, or am I better off changing? So I think that's a great opportunity. And as for kind of when you're sort of on the route, if you like, I guess for me it was being really focused on what I want, and it's something that I've journaled about a few times. It's something somebody suggested to me, just like literally sit down and write down what your ideal week looks like. And then that I found that really helpful then when I'm evaluating opportunities to sort of say, does this align with what I'm actually trying to achieve? Does it take me towards it, or is it taking me away from it? So I think for me, I very much haven't had a fixed goal of I'm going to do X. It's very much been kind of morphing over time and gradually developing, but having a real clarity of what that looks like, which I guess for me is, a flexibility to do all the things that are important to me in life, including time with kids and learning, having enough income to be able to pay mortgage bills and things, but so being able to feel like I'm making a difference. So then every time an opportunity comes along, or every time I sort of start looking for something different, I kind of evaluate against those things. I think being really sort of laser focused is really important, because as you know from our discussions, I've kind of got sidetracked along the way a few times, and maybe panicked a couple of times and made the wrong decisions as a result. Whereas actually I think being really clear headed, and I think also being really on top of your numbers, because it's quite easy not to be, and therefore maybe you panic when you don't need to, or equally maybe you haven't sort of saved up enough over the time such that you can give yourself that flexibility. So I think really being focused has been the thing that's helped me.
Well, so many powerful ideas. You say focus, which I think is so important, especially when we have limited time. Perhaps young children, although they're growing up very quickly and so on, we all have limited time, whatever our lifestyle looks like. But then, as you said, really spending time to think, what do I want from the big picture perspective? How much money do I actually need? Because as you say, if you don't even do the maths, maybe you need less than you think, or maybe you actually need more and you're not taking that seriously. But also then really logistically, practically, as you said, I want to be able to do the school pickups, have XYZ holidays. And I love that you're checking in regularly then to make sure that is what you're doing, because it's so easy to, especially this time of year, we're speaking sort of beginning of 2020, and like, I've got this vision, I'm going to do these wonderful things, and then suddenly a few months have gone and it looks nothing like that. So being able to sort of really anchor that in your day to day and take those little steps and make tweaks, and saying no, which you said as well, to the projects and clients that might interfere with that, might have you working evenings and weekends and holidays, whatever it might be. So lots of nuggets there for people to get their teeth into. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So where can we find you? Do you have a website you want to guide people to? It sounds like you're doing a couple of different things. So you let us know, and where we can find out more about you and perhaps follow you on social as well.
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Vicky Mason, and I've got my website vickymason.com, and I've also got a group on Facebook, but that's very niche, that's very specific to supporting kind of women, so that's probably not quite as relevant, but yeah, those are the main places.
Yeah, we're happy to share that, and I also love, again, I'm such a fan of a portfolio career, and the fact that it's you know, I don't know, sort of, as you said, you love the variety and so on, but also that you might turn up one piece and turn down the other, depending on if you want more income perhaps over here, or more, you might be doing some voluntary work that is sort of more closely aligned to something personal but doesn't necessarily generate a lot of money and so on. So I think that's really important for people to see, that it's not necessarily, especially when you're crafting your own business, it's not going to be something that we can fit onto LinkedIn as a perfect job description necessarily. It might be a bit of a mix of different things, and I think that's what works for you, which is fantastic. So great, thank you so much.
I do really see it as a portfolio career, to be honest, as opposed to a sort of single thing. And yeah, one of the things, like you mentioned, volunteering, one of the things I've really enjoyed doing is running the Action for Happiness courses. That's made a real difference as well. It's something I'd wanted to do for a long time, but suddenly kind of having more flexibility, I've been able to sort of commit to sort of 2 hours a week to be able to do things like that. So yeah, definitely kind of following the clues of things that you've been interested in and passionate about over time has really helped.
Yeah, love that. Follow the clues. Let's leave it there. It's a good piece of advice for you, whether you're at the beginning of the process or further on, because again, it's so easy to get, as you said, get distracted by the wrong things along the way.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much, Vicky. Thanks for sharing, and lots of great insights for people there. So thanks so much for letting us know how you've been getting on, and best of luck with the next few years of twists and turns, and excited to see what happens next.
No, you're very welcome. Great to speak to you.
Thank you.